Hey everyone, and welcome back to another news alert. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and thank you so much for tuning into Boyd News. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more updates like this. And feel free to support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee. Links are in the description below the video. All right, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you may be watching from. Happy first day of December, and I hope you're all ready for Christmas coming up soon. We've got a lot of breaking news to cover with this war update. I've got a very big report to share with you to start the video off. We have news that the Russians have begun deploying Shahed drones equipped with air-to-air missiles to combat Ukrainian helicopters. Got this new video for you here on your screen showing a Ukrainian interceptor drone taking out a Russian Shahed drone equipped with an R-60 air-to-air missile. And here's the information on your screen. It says Russia has started to strap fighter jet missiles to Shahed drones. Russia has used a Shahed-type attack drone equipped with an air-to-air missile for the first time, marking a new escalation in its attempts to target Ukrainian aircraft. Okay, this is very big news, and if you're wondering why the Russians are strapping fighter jet missiles or R-60 air-to-air missiles to them, it's because Ukraine has recently announced over the past few months they're going to be expanding their fleet of helicopters because helicopters are widely used to destroy drones inside of Ukraine. So because they're so effective, the Russians are trying to find a counter to that to take out some of these aircraft that are utilized to destroy these Shahed drones. So very big news today. I'll show you guys some pictures coming out from Ukraine after this thing was shot down. They actually found it on the ground inside of eastern Ukraine. So insane news. Other top headline news. New video released today showing a Ukrainian interceptor drone taking down a jet-powered Shahed drone for the first time in the war. I believe it was the same type of interceptor that was used here, called a Sting interceptor drone. That's very big news. Also Russia's southwestern region of Dagestan Republic came under attack by Ukrainian drones today, possibly targeting a defense plant connected to the Russian military. Got pictures and videos coming out from the Dagestan Republic. Major explosions going on over there today. Aside from that news, multiple sabotage attacks are being reported inside of Russia. Over the past few weeks, Ukraine's military intelligence and partisans have carried out numerous attacks on Russian forces and officials connected to the military. Yeah, we had a massive explosion in Moscow today, targeting an official that is involved in producing lasers for the Russian military. So we'll show you the video footage coming out from there. His car was blown up today. So lots of news to cover. Let's go ahead and jump right into this. We'll jump on over to X with status 6. Russia started employing Shahed Garan-type long-range UAVs equipped with air-to-air missiles for combating Ukrainian aviation assets. Ukrainian military radio technology expert Serhiy Flash reports the remains of the Shahed Garan-type drone with an R-60 short-range air-to-air missile attached to it has been found on the ground following its interception. So great news to hear that this thing was taken out. Here's remnants of this drone it found crashed inside of Ukraine. You can see that R-60 air-to-air missile there attached to the top of it. So it is a short-range air-to-air missile that's typically attached to fighter jets. Now the Russians are strapping these onto their Shahed drones, utilizing them to try to destroy Ukrainian helicopters. So it looks like the Ukrainians have a new threat to deal with. As we know, they are expanding their fleet of helicopters to take down these incoming drones. So they're going to have to deal with this now. Looks like we're going to be seeing all kinds of different types of drones attacking into Ukraine. We know that the Russians have these jet-powered drones, which we're going to talk about right now. They strap all kinds of different warheads, cluster munitions. I've got pictures on that today. Some cluster munition warheads were being used on some Shahed drones inside the Kiev region. So insane what the Russians are doing with these drones now. No reports now. The first videos are emerging showing a Ukrainian Sting interceptor drone taking down a Russian Garan-3, a Shahed 238 variant loitering munition. So this is a different type of drone than the one that was taken down by Ukraine with that R-60 missile. This one actually has a jet propulsion system or engine on the back of it, which makes these much harder to intercept. But Ukraine is releasing new video footage today showing that their interceptor drone called Sting actually has the ability to catch up to these things and destroy them. As you can see here in the video footage, it's approaching the drone right now and eventually slams right into it, and from what we understand, destroyed it. So that's great news to hear that these things are effective in destroying these new Shahed drones that are jet propelled. Now here's more information from Bliskovka. All three Shahed drones used by Russia to attack Vyshhorod were equipped with cluster munitions, said radio technology expert called Flash. According to him, the drones first scattered cluster elements over the city and then hit residential buildings. Check this out. We know that Kiev came under a pretty massive attack several times actually over the last week. So this could have been due to one of those attacks. You can see one of these drones slammed into the side of this building, and we can see right there all the remnants from that cluster munition after it detonates, all the shrapnel that goes everywhere. These are apparently some of the cluster munitions that are found inside of these drones or maybe on the ground, some of them being scattered over the city in the capital before detonating and crashing to a building. So you can see why these drones are so dangerous inside of Ukraine, and the Russians are doing whatever they can to maximize damage to civilians and take people's lives, as we keep hearing that many times these drones and sometimes missiles are scattering cluster munitions, dropping them over cities as they're flying into Ukraine. Absolutely insane. All right, now from Astra, Kaspiysk in Dagestan was attacked by UAVs. Windows in parked cars near a residential building were damaged. 3.5 kilometers from the Dagestan defense plant, Astra Analysis reports. A child was injured, local authorities added. So unfortunately, we had a child injured in these attacks. Some of these drones, I think, were being destroyed in the skies over the Dagestan Republic. This is going to be like far southwestern Russia, close to Georgia, is where these attacks were taking place. In the Dagestan defense plant, I believe that has some sort of connection to Russia's Navy, but it is a defense plant that is in connection to the Russian military. We are able to confirm that today. But we can see some of these windows being blown out as there was some reports of smoke in the skies. You can see right here, some drones were allegedly either detonating in the skies or maybe being taken out by Russian air defense teams. So it's kind of the area of where this defense plant is located, where these explosions were taking place at. So I'm not sure if that defense plant was hit over there, still waiting for more details. But we do have some videos coming out today from Exile Nova Plus. Kaspiysk in Dagestan was attacked this morning, most likely targeting the Kaspiysk base. People are also finding items like those in the photo in their homes. Details are being clarified. Yeah, it looks like some sort of shrapnel being found in their homes after these drones were allegedly being detonated in the skies. I got video footage here today. Let's jump into this one. Not a whole lot of sound in this video, but we can see some smoke here in the skies from a possible drone that was intercepted. One more video coming up. All right, just a quick clip right here, but yeah, definitely some drones attacking over here. Not really sure exactly what was being hit. All we know is that some drones were being destroyed in the skies over here. Here's that one more photo of somebody finding some shrapnel in their homes, possibly due to a drone that was being detonated over here. So very interesting. This actually looks like a bullet. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but if you guys know what that is, let me know down in the comments there. Now for Bliskovka, Russian railway facilities were blown up in Novosibirsk and Bryansk regions. Okay, so Novosibirsk could be kind of like central Russia in the Siberia region, close to the border of Kazakhstan, and then Bryansk region is going to be right over the border from Ukraine on the northern side of Ukraine into Russia's territory. Bryansk region right on the border there with Belarus as well. And it says on November 20th, an explosion in Barshovo damaged the track of the West Siberian Railway and stopped the movement of freight trains. On November 28th, at least 2 fuel tanks were destroyed at the Uneka station, and the railway tracks of the Bryansk-Gomel route were damaged. So 2 reports of sabotage attacks taking place inside of Russia, most likely either partisan groups or Ukrainian military intelligence carrying out these strikes. This was a snapshot from a video that was coming out. It was like 2-3 minutes long, and it was really just a video showing a major explosion here right on these tracks as some sort of device was planted over here and detonated, destroying the tracks, and we may have even had a train that could have been derailed, but obviously slowing down logistics coming from Russia's far east. And we know a lot of equipment comes from North Korea, not so much recently, but in the recent past, over the last maybe year or so, we have heard a lot of reports this could be affecting supplies coming from North Korea possibly. Now, no reports Ukrainian military intelligence and local partisans conducted a sabotage operation in occupied Berdyansk. That's going to be in the Zaporizhzhia region of Ukraine. And it says on November 19th, now confirmed by authorities, 5 Russian National Guard troops were killed, 4 wounded. 2 pickup trucks and a Tiger armored vehicle were damaged or destroyed in the explosion. So check out this video, and we're not going to watch the whole thing, just a small clip of this, but you're going to see an explosion right here. There's a little grouping here of Russian troops, a couple of vehicles. Looks like they were meeting in the middle of the night, and Ukrainian partisan groups and Ukrainian military intelligence carried out a sabotage attack with an explosive device over here, injuring and possibly killing many of these Russian troops. So take a look at this real quick. We're not going to display the sound as there is music in this video, but we can see a pretty massive explosion right there. Looks like a vehicle had blown up too. We can see there in the video. So yeah, according to this information, multiple Russian National Guard troops here being killed and injured in this sabotage attack targeting the Russian military. So pretty crazy video right there. Let me know how you think on that. Now, military news UA in Moscow, a car belonging to an employee of the Research Institute of the Rostec Corporation, which manufactures military-grade laser systems, exploded. Land Cruiser 200 Prado burned down completely and there was no one inside. The SUV belonged to a 41-year-old doctor of physical and mathematical sciences and specialist in quantum electronics, an employee of the MF Stelmach Polius Research Institute. Among the Institute's developments are the LTD 4-1 laser target designator and other products for the military, which is why the Institute is included in the US and EU sanctions list. Okay, so we have somebody connected to the Russian military here producing laser equipment and their car being blown up. So we haven't seen anything like this in Moscow in a while. If you guys remember, sometimes top Russian military commanders, generals are being targeted in hits over here. Sometimes assassination attempts. We've had one where there was like a scooter being planted outside of somebody's building, killing a Russian general over there. Also reports sometimes of cars being destroyed, sometimes even with them inside of it. In this case, apparently nobody was inside the vehicle, but the car was detonated. We can see the firefighters over here trying to put the blaze out on that vehicle that was destroyed. So another possible sabotage hit here or assassination attempt on a Russian military, a person connected to the Russian military, excuse me. All right, now from the Kiev Post, a Russian strike hit Dnipro, damaging the warehouse of two charitable organizations, a representative of one of the groups said. According to updated information, the death toll in the city has reached 4, with 27 people injured. Rescue operations are ongoing. Yeah, this has to be probably one of the biggest stories coming out from Ukraine today. Very sad news. From what I understand, 4 people have lost their lives. I think this number has gone up to 40 people being injured so far. This was a Russian Iskander ballistic missile that struck the city of Dnipro. This is going to be like central Ukraine, and this is a city that has been attacked by missiles and drones before in the past. And what we're hearing today, this was a charitable organization, or 2 of them, of these warehouses being struck. This is no connection to the Russian military, purely a civilian object that was attacked by yet again another horrific missile attack, a ballistic missile in this case. See lots of damage to this building here, cars outside being destroyed. Very sad to hear that 4 people lost their lives, and many of them that are in the hospitals today are still in critical condition. So those numbers could be expected to rise. But very, very sad news here. You can see a war crimes prosecutor on site investigating this, as obviously this was a direct attack onto civilians once again. Now, Clash reports, watch the moment a Russian missile hit Ukraine's Dnipro. Yeah, a 13-second clip here. Take a look at this, guys. Very horrible. All right, we can see the explosion was so loud it actually cuts the sound off on the person recording it. Maybe there were some other attacks nearby. That's why somebody was recording at the time this missile actually struck. You can see it dropping there directly onto those 2 charitable organization centers. Very, very horrible news. Here's one more now from Dagestan. Entire Russian command structures, targeting units, logistics teams, and launch crews worked together today to murder 4 innocent Ukrainian civilians with a $2 million ballistic missile in Dnipro, on the cheers and congratulations of millions of other Russians. Isn't that so sad to think about? Millions of dollars and, logistics teams and all this intelligence and everything being used by these Russian military forces launching this missile strike onto Ukraine, being used just to take out innocent civilians. You can see here right in the middle of the city, people driving down this street. There goes that missile coming in and slamming right into that building. So, yeah, I have not been able to confirm there's any connection with this building being used for the Ukrainian military. Today, from what we understand, completely civilian object being attacked. Very sad. Now, Shevchenko Volodymyr U.S. Ukraine talks on Sunday centered on one issue: where to draw a de facto border with Russia under a possible peace deal. According to Axios, one of the topics discussed by the Ukrainian and American delegations yesterday in Florida is the timing of elections in Ukraine, according to Wall Street Journal. In addition, the possibility of territory exchange between Russia and Ukraine and other issues were discussed. Okay, so it looks like they were still talking about territory issues. What is Ukraine going to give up? What is Russia going to give up? This was a picture coming out from the meeting yesterday between Ukrainian and U.S. delegations. We've got Rustem Umerov, the National Security Defense Council Secretary. He's leading the negotiations on the Ukrainian side. Then we've got U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio leading negotiations on the American side. So yeah, they talked yesterday for several hours. They also met again today. So I've got numerous things to go over with you guys. We did report on Saturday, just before I took my day off on Sunday, letting you guys know they would be meeting to discuss this possible peace deal with Russia. Okay, now from NOLA Reports, U.S. Envoy Steve Witkoff heads to Moscow today to discuss a potential peace deal with Putin after talks in Florida. Washington reportedly proposed Ukrainian withdrawal from Donbass. Ukraine rejected it. As of now, no final agreement exists. Discussions covered elections, territory issues, and various compromise options. Here's a report today: after progress in talks to end Ukraine war, U.S. diplomacy faces Kremlin test. Okay, so major reports here today. It's indicating that next up is going to be the Russians. We're going to have Steve Witkoff heading over to Moscow starting today, and then I believe tomorrow he'll be meeting with Vladimir Putin. And then we'll see how the Russians respond to all this. But what we're hearing today, the major story is going to be that Ukraine rejected once again withdrawing from the Donbass and giving it over to the Russians. So moving on now, Kiev Post. Witkoff's meeting with Putin is scheduled to take place on December 2nd in Moscow, AFP reports, citing sources. Okay, so AFP, major mainstream news outlet, reporting that tomorrow Witkoff will be meeting in Moscow with Vladimir Putin to discuss this peace deal, as I just mentioned. Then now from N-Strike, after the work of the delegations in the United States concluded, Rustem Umerov informed me about the key parameters of the dialogue, its main points, and certain outcomes. It is important that the talks demonstrated constructiveness and all issues were discussed openly, aiming to ensure Ukraine's sovereignty and national interests. I thank the United States, President Donald Trump's team, and the President personally for the time so intensively dedicated to defining the steps needed to end the war. We will continue our work. I look forward to receiving the full report from our team during our in-person meeting, Volodymyr Zelensky reported. This was him making a statement today. So thanking President Trump for the opportunity to discuss the peace deal. Then apparently he's looking forward to an in-person meeting with Trump here soon. We're still waiting to see if they're going to meet and when that's going to be. I don't have any details on that just yet, but possibly here in the near future. This will probably come after Steve Witkoff meets with Vladimir Putin tomorrow in Moscow. Now, Max 25, over 2 very productive days in the U.S., we spent many hours of meetings and negotiations. We managed to achieve significant progress, although some issues require further refinement, Secretary of the National Security Defense Council of Ukraine, Umerov, wrote. Okay, so Rustem Umerov pretty much just confirming that they had these talks, they went pretty well, but apparently there's still a few key issues, most likely one of them being giving up territory inside of Ukraine. That's going to be a tough one, obviously, for them to work out, because we know Ukraine is not going to give up any territory over to the Russians. So a statement from him today. Now, Bliskovka, the war must end as soon as possible. Much now depends on the activity of each leader, Zelensky said after meeting with Macron. Okay, so big news today. Volodymyr Zelensky is in France. In Paris, he did meet with Emmanuel Macron. They also held a press conference today, too, and we had Zelensky and Macron making some statements. We'll go over that a little bit also. But Zelensky also mentioned today that the war must end as soon as possible, and he says much now depends on the activity of each leader. So it looks like they're going to push for an end to the war. Let's hope it does come to an end safely here soon. Here's a few statements now from Ukrainian Review. It says the territorial issue is the most difficult. Zelensky about the negotiations in the USA. Negotiations on territorial issues in the U.S. lasted 6.5 hours. Zelensky stated, now the peace plan looks better. Okay, so Zelensky stating that apparently the new plan has been reshaped even further to better provide Ukraine with the certain tools they need to end this war safely and protect them from any future attack from Russia. But he's also stating that apparently the negotiations on territorial issues alone lasted 6.5 hours. So that shows how difficult it is for Ukraine to find a settlement on this war without having to give up any territory to the Russians. As we know, the Russians do want full control of the Donbass. That includes the Donetsk region and also the Luhansk regions of Ukraine on the eastern side. So there's some statements from Zelensky today. Now, Bliskavka, Macron will ask Xi Jinping to influence Russia during his visit to China to achieve a ceasefire in Ukraine, according to BFM TV. Previously, the French president will arrive in Beijing on Wednesday and stay there until Friday. So we've got Emmanuel Macron, the French president, heading to China. He's going to be there from Wednesday to Friday, and while he's there, he's going to try to influence Xi Jinping to put pressure onto Russia to achieve a ceasefire inside of Ukraine. And we've been hearing this for a long time that, China could be a major player here if they really wanted to put pressure onto Russia, but I really don't think that's going to be the case. We know the Chinese are really helping the Russians out, and they're not going to do anything that's going to force Russia to lose this war or end this war unfavorable for their position, right? So I don't think Xi Jinping's going to do anything about this when it comes to Russia and is trying to force them to agree to a ceasefire. Maybe he'll make some sort of statement on Russia, but I don't think it's going to be anything major or aggressive towards Vladimir Putin. But we'll have to see. These two are going to be meeting here this week. Now, Max 25, Zelensky will meet with Witkoff and Umarov in Ireland tomorrow, according to AFP. Witkoff will fly through Ireland on his way to Moscow to meet with Putin. All right, so apparently Witkoff is also going to make a pit stop in Ireland to meet with Vladimir Zelensky. And Rustem Umarov, the National Security Defense Council secretary, will be there as well to discuss these details just before, obviously Witkoff and Putin are going to be meeting tomorrow. Okay, so they're going to discuss these peace deal negotiations and everything that's been happening over the weekend starting on Sunday in the United States. So should be getting some good information tomorrow after Zelensky is briefed on these talks that took place recently. Now, military news UA in Ukraine, a ground drone called Serco S1 has been developed, equipped with the Atropia demining system, capable of neutralizing minefields remotely. The platform performs remote demining, clearing safe corridors for infantry and vehicles without risking personnel. Check this thing out. So very cool to see. Ukraine just consistently comes up with new innovative drones, whether they be ground drones, aerial attack drones, all kinds of different reports coming out every week with new equipment being designed. And obviously, this really helps out Ukraine because Ukraine is heavily outnumbered compared to the Russians. And equipment like this, especially for demining operations, will save a lot of lives inside of Ukraine. That way, these Ukrainian soldiers don't have to risk their lives trying to go out there and demine certain areas. So very cool to see this new piece of equipment here. Let me know what you think on that one. Here's another one now for Max 25. Ukrainian company Toshka Drones has introduced a serial 18-inch FPV drone for the military, according to Militarny. The increase in the size of the FPV drone allows for increased payload and lifting capacity, which enables the use of significantly more powerful warheads. So check this out. Here's apparently a new picture of this thing. An 18-inch FPV drone, so much larger than some of the other drones that are used to attack Russian positions. That means it can carry a heavier payload. Larger explosion can be created by using these newer drones. We also know Ukraine has some very large ones as well. Sometimes I think upwards of like 24 inches that can carry sometimes like certain small bombs. They call it the Baba Yaga drone, and they use that to destroy certain air defense equipment, radars, things like that. Sometimes even tanks or vehicles. But this one in this case will be used to crash into Russian positions, carrying a much heavier warhead or payload that can cause more damage. So there you go, more innovation coming from the Ukrainian military. Now, Kyiv Independent, F-16 ammunition, air defenses. Netherlands announces 290 million Ukraine aid package. The Netherlands on December 1st pledged to purchase U.S. arms for Kyiv worth 250 million euros or $290 million under the Prioritize Ukraine Requirements List, PURL. Okay, so the PURL program, if you guys are not familiar with that, most of you probably are, but just in case you're not, this is a program that allows NATO nations to purchase weapons from the United States directly and send them over to Ukraine. And this was created several months back under the Trump administration. Now, Netherlands stepping up big today with $290 million in aid for Ukraine, and they're going to be purchasing lots of different equipment, F-16 ammunition, and air defense equipment for the Ukrainians. So great to hear about that today. Now, from N Strike, Europe has no intention of letting Russia go unpunished. The European Union stated that any peace agreement related to Ukraine cannot free Russia from responsibility for war crimes. Michael McGrath, EU Commissioner for Justice, told Politico that negotiators are obliged to rule out any scenario in which the Kremlin manages to end the war without facing judicial consequences. McGrath noted that hundreds of thousands of war crimes have been documented by Ukrainian and international institutions. The UN Commission has already found Russian authorities guilty of crimes against humanity. The EU and allied countries are working on a special tribunal, while the International Criminal Court has issued an arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin over the deportation, of Ukrainian children. According to McGrath, the amnesty idea that appeared in Trump's early plans would be a catastrophic mistake if the crimes go unpunished. Europe risks facing a new wave of Russian aggression. Yeah, I have to agree with that. I think that's a very bad idea for this plan to include any kind of amnesty for the Russians. Obviously, it would include amnesty for Ukraine as well. But the Russians have carried out numerous attacks onto Ukrainian civilians, so many different war crimes ever since back towards the beginning of this war. I mean, how many can be accounted for by now? Probably over 1,000 cases of war crimes, just like what we saw today inside of Dnipro with this ballistic missile attack. So apparently, Europe is not going to be agreeing to any plan that that involves amnesty for the Russians, meaning a pardon basically for everybody involved in this war because of how many war crimes have been created over there. And I don't think that's right because, we've reported so many times of Russian strikes onto civilians, drone attacks, doesn't matter what it is. Lots of people losing their lives when they shouldn't have to, due to the Russians clearly trying to destroy civilians inside of Ukraine. We've reported this I don't know how many times. So good to see that Europe is not going to stand with that. They will make sure that Russia is punished to the fullest extent of international law and these war crimes that they've created inside of Ukraine. Now, Max 25, in 2026, the Russian government plans to spend almost 40% of the budget on war and national security. FSB, Ministry of Internal Affairs, Russian Guard, and Federal Anti-Corruption Commission reports. Almost 9% of the budget will go to servicing the national debt. At the same time, social spending will be the lowest in 20 years of available statistics. Okay, so we take a look at this chart here. We've got from 2021, before the war got started, all the way to 2026. So if you notice here, public debt servicing is up quite a bit compared to 4%, now 8.8. So it's doubled over the last 5 years now. And if we notice here, 38.2%, almost 40%, not quite matching the amount of spending for the war last year, but very close to that. And compared to obviously before the war started, 23 here, 38 as of 2026. And then social spending, if you notice here, 25.1% compared to 38% in 2021. Okay, so lots of people that need money from the government are not going to be receiving it. And in fact, we know they're going to be passing a lot of laws coming up this year that are going to force many citizens to pay for this war through taxes. So not only is social expenses going down, but people are going to be taxed into oblivion. This is going to weaken the economy even further over there. And it says here, a national economy, 10.9% compared to 17% in 2021, and then 16.9% for other categories, pretty much similar to what we saw just before the start of the war. So pretty insane. The Russians are going to be spending a lot of money on war. And what does this show right here? That the Russians are not prepared for peace. They're going to be expecting this war to continue. And the people, the citizens of Russia are going to suffer even more and have to finance this war. Now, defense intelligence, major twist just surfaced in the Maritime shadow war. For the first time, Ukrainian intelligence has reportedly struck a Russian-linked tanker far from the battlefield near a port in Senegal, almost 5,500 kilometers from Ukraine. The vessel in question is the Turkish-owned MV Mersin, believed to be part of the Russia's shadow fleet. Reports say the ship is taking on water in its engine room and has sent a distress call. Local tugboats are now rushing to keep it from sinking. A quiet front just turned active, and the ripples from this incident may travel far beyond the coast of West Africa. So if you take a look at the dates here, November 30th, this came out yesterday. So many of you might be aware of this story, but just because I wasn't here yesterday, I figure we wrap up the video talking about this briefly real quick. The Ukraine apparently carried out a strike on yet again another Russian oil tanker that's part of the Shadow Fleet, and this time way far away from Ukraine, not in the Black Sea like what we reported late last week. This one being over near West Africa. Allegedly, several explosions were recorded on this Russian oil tanker, and it looks like in this video we can see it is starting to sink. And I did hear some reports today that I believe were unconfirmed that it may have completely sunk off the coast of West Africa near Senegal. But crazy, it looks like Ukraine is now waging a global war on Russian shadow tankers, as we've got another one being struck here much further away from Ukraine. So this really shows that these ships are not safe anywhere. And clearly, I think this is a very dangerous act for Ukraine to carry this out, especially could create major environmental disasters, excuse me. But regardless, we're seeing Ukraine starting to expand their attacks onto these ships and trying to shut down Russia's ability to utilize these Shadow Fleet tankers. So crazy news today. Let me know what you guys think on this one down in the comments, and share some details on that if you've got anything. Now, no reports. Ukrainian air defense shot down or jammed 63 out of 89 Russian drones overnight, mostly Shaheeds launched from Kursk, Oriel, Milarovo, occupied Crimea, and more. So 89 drones going into Ukraine overnight, 63 of those being destroyed. Pretty good numbers coming out from Ukraine. Apparently says no missiles being fired, but we did have that ballistic missile strike in Dnipro today. I'm not sure why this wasn't recorded. Maybe this information came out before that missile strike was carried out. But yeah, clearly here's a good majority of drones being destroyed by Ukrainian defense forces. Now, the Kyiv Independent, these are the indicative estimates of Russia's combat losses as of December 1st, according to the armed forces of Ukraine. And it says here Russia's losses as of December 1st: 1,060 troops, 6 AFVs, 71 vehicles and fuel tanks, 1 tank, 14 artillery systems, 239 UAVs, 2 MLRS, 29 cruise missiles, and it looks like that is it here on this list. But 2 multiple launch rocket systems being destroyed. We've been seeing these at like 1 or 0 recently, so very good news to see that there. 14 artillery systems, still very low numbers here. We've been seeing less than 15. Recently, there was like 2 or 3 a couple days ago that was only destroyed. 1 tank, 6 AFVs. AFV's been going up a little bit lately. We've been seeing sometimes closer to 15. In this case, only 6 today. Vehicles and fuel tanks, about average numbers we've been seeing there. Same with troop numbers, usually about 900 to 1,000 on average. So guys, I want to thank you so much for tuning in for today's update on December 1st, 2025. Enjoy your Monday out there. Thanks so much for tuning in. Let me know what you think about all these details down below in the comment section. That's going to be it for today's update. If you got something out of this, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless. And we'll see you in the next one.